$1.2 million. That is the amount of money sitting on a table right now, waiting for anyone with information about Nancy Guthrie. $1 million from her daughter, Savannah, $100,000 from the FBI, and another $100,000 from a private attorney in Wisconsin named Michael Huebsch, who put up his own money because he could not sit still and do nothing. $1.2 million. 65 days, and not one person has picked up the phone. Not one tip that led anywhere, not one name, not one location, not one piece of useful information. In most kidnapping cases, a reward this size breaks things open within days. Somebody talks, somebody slips, somebody wants the money badly enough to take the risk. But 65 days into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, nobody has made that call. That is not normal. And when I started looking into why, when I found the 3 theories being put forward by the people who study cases like this for a living, one of them stopped me cold. One of them is the darkest thing anyone has said about this investigation since the night it began. I'm going to give you all 3 theories in full. But before I do, I need to tell you about Michael Huebsch, because what he said when he put that $100,000 on the table changes how you read everything else. Stay with me. Quick sourcing note before we go in. All information in this video is based on verified reporting from named, credentialed sources. Every person quoted is identified by name and their specific connection to this case. Where something is my analysis, I will say so. No individual is named as a suspect in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Those are the standards. Let's follow the evidence. Before we go into the theories, I need to stop for a moment. Because behind this number, behind $1.2 million and 65 days of silence, there is a person. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is a mother, a grandmother, a woman who was taken from her own home in her pajamas without her shoes on the night of January 31st. A woman whose daughter describes lying awake in the dark, imagining her terror. A woman who should be home right now. If you are a person of faith, please say a prayer for Nancy Guthrie right now. Pray that she is found. Pray that she is safe. Pray that whoever knows what happened finds the conscience to come forward before it is too late.
And if prayer is not your practice, hold her in your thoughts, because that is why this channel exists, not to fill time, to keep this case in front of people who care. Right now, people watching this are spread across the United States, the UK, Canada, Australia, and beyond. True crime communities across the world are following every development in this investigation, and the only reason this video reaches any of them is because someone shared it, someone subscribed, someone told the algorithm that this content matters. This channel has almost no subscribers. I want to be straight with you about that. We are building this from zero, one video at a time. And the honest truth is that if you are watching this, you are exactly the person this channel was built for. You care. You are paying attention. You want to understand what is actually happening in this case. So I'm asking you, right now, before we go any further, please hit subscribe, hit the like button. It takes 5 seconds. Those 2 things are what keeps this channel alive and what gets this case in front of more people. And drop a comment. We are going to get to a question at the end of this video that I genuinely want to hear your answer to. Stay for it. Now, let's talk about why nobody has claimed $1.2 million. Michael Huebsch is the president of Crime Stoppers Milwaukee. He has paid out $75,000 in rewards before. He has posted $200,000 to solve crimes in his own city. This is a man who puts his own money on the line when he believes something needs to happen. When he saw what happened to Nancy Guthrie, he said something that stopped me cold. He said, "I was very sad that an 84-year-old woman in poor health was taken from her home without her medication. Her pacemaker stopped syncing. There is blood at the crime scene, and I thought something had to be done quickly. So he put up $100,000 of his own money. But here's the part that tells you everything about the state of this investigation. Huebsch did not just offer money, he told people where to call, and it was not the sheriff. He said it directly. Avoid the bickering and avoid the nonsense and call Crime Stoppers. That is a direct quote. A man who contributed $100,000 of his own money to this reward is publicly telling the public not to call the Pima County Sheriff's Department, not to call the FBI tip line, call Crime Stoppers instead. Think about what that says about the state of this investigation. Think about what it means when the person funding part of the reward does not trust the people running the case. And the reason he is saying it matters. Crime Stoppers is not a government agency. It is not subject to Freedom of Information laws. When you call, they do not ask for your name. They give you a code number. If your tip leads to an arrest, you collect the reward using that code. No identity, no record, no one ever knows it was you. That is real anonymity, the kind a government tip line cannot offer. And Huebsch believes that anonymity is exactly what it is going to take, because the people who know something are afraid. Afraid of being identified, afraid of retaliation, afraid of what happens when the person who took Nancy Guthrie finds out they talked. Now, there are two theories for why the fear is winning over the money, but there's a third, and I want to warn you, it is the darkest thing anyone has said about this investigation. Stay with me.
A true crime analyst named Josh Diaz appeared on The Interview Room and said something that reframes the entire silence question. He said, whoever is involved in this is kind of ride or die together now. Ride or die. Let me tell you exactly what that means in the context of this case. The people who took Nancy Guthrie are bound together, not by loyalty, by exposure. They cannot turn on each other because doing so means turning on themselves. If one of them walks into a police station and says, "I know who did it," the first question they are going to hear is, "How do you know?" And the only honest answer to that question puts them in a cell right next to the person they are trying to turn in. Diaz believes 2 to 3 suspects were involved, not strangers who met online, not hired hands from out of state. People who knew each other, people who planned this together, working as a unit, coordinated. And the reason no one has come forward despite $1.2 million is that anyone who knows enough to collect that reward also knows enough to be charged as an accomplice. You cannot separate yourself from this crime, not when you were part of it from the beginning. The reward might as well not exist for these people, because claiming it means confessing. Think about that. $1.2 million, genuinely life-changing money, enough to disappear, enough to relocate your entire life, enough to make someone think, maybe the risk is worth it. Maybe I can find a way to give just enough information to collect the reward without incriminating myself. Maybe I can make that call anonymously, use the Crime Stoppers code, and walk away with a life-changing amount of money and nobody ever knows it was me. In most cases, O'Connell's analysis holds. Human nature breaks. Someone gets greedy. Someone gets scared. Someone is sitting in a difficult place financially, and the idea of $1.2 million becomes impossible to ignore. But 65 days have passed, and it has not happened. Not once. Which means either every single person with relevant knowledge is so deeply implicated that they cannot claim the reward without destroying themselves, or something else is going on. Something that makes the money irrelevant. Something stronger than greed.
That house, after the doorbell camera went dark,
Like
that knowledge is the most dangerous thing in this case. Not the forensic evidence, not the financial records. Those build a circumstantial case. A first-person account from the victim herself builds something that cannot be circumstantially challenged. For the people who organized what happened on February 1st, Nancy Guthrie coming home is not a resolution. It is the end of their safety. Every day she remains absent is a day her testimony cannot be given. Every day the investigation works from forensics and cell data rather than her voice and her memory is a day the case is harder to close and easier to fight in court. Think about what that means practically. She was there. She may know a voice. She may have seen a face before the mask went on or after it came off. She may have been told something, shown something, given any fragment of identifying information that collapses the investigation from theory into fact. No piece of electronic evidence substitutes for that, and the people who organize this know it. This is the second them, the them that does not hope Savannah Guthrie never comes back to her desk, the them that needs Nancy Guthrie to never come back at all. Both of them exist simultaneously in the same case, around the same family, pulling in the same direction by entirely different mechanisms.
This is what makes this sentence genuinely different from a headline designed only to generate attention. The sentence is not designed to imply a conspiracy between the Today Show and the people who took Nancy Guthrie. There is no such conspiracy. The professional world that benefits from Savannah's empty seat and the criminal world that needs Nancy's continued absence do not communicate with each other, do not share motives, do not even know the other exists. They simply both point in the same direction, and Savannah Guthrie is the person at the center of both arrows. What the sentence illuminates is the specific, uncomfortable truth that a single prolonged absence can serve multiple different interests for completely different reasons simultaneously. And here is the thing that does not get said often enough about that dynamic. They reinforce each other's invisibility. The professional them benefits from a narrative in which Savannah's absence is explained entirely by the criminal case, because as long as the story is about the disappearance and the investigation and the family's anguish, nobody is looking too closely at who is sitting in her chair or how they feel about being asked to vacate it. And the criminal them benefits from a narrative in which the Today Show angle is treated as tabloid noise, because as long as the workplace politics story absorbs the media's appetite for institutional drama, the forensic and behavioral evidence trail gets less analytical attention than it deserves. The sentence, "Many of them hoped she'd never come back," does not allow either of those deflections. It holds both meanings simultaneously, and it refuses to let you choose between them. Savannah Guthrie went back to that desk on April 6th, 2 months after her mother was reported missing, with no arrest, no named suspect, no resolved investigation. Not because the criminal them had been resolved, not because the professional them had been confronted or answered. She went back because absence was not a posture she was willing to hold indefinitely for either of them. The public face of the Nancy Guthrie investigation has communicated very little of substance since the first 2 weeks. That absence of public communication has been interpreted by some as stagnation. It is not. Federal investigations do not communicate their progress. They communicate their conclusions at indictment, at arrest, at formal charge, and not before. The interval between investigative certainty and public action is construction time. What is being constructed is a case built to hold in front of a federal jury. Here is what the record actually shows. The FBI moved its command post to Phoenix. Long-duration logistics. That is not a withdrawal. Sheriff Nanos told NBC Night News that investigators believed they know why the home was targeted. That is not "we are following leads." That is a stated internal conclusion about motive. He also did not rule out that the suspect could strike again, which means there is a suspect picture, a motive picture, and a suspect still at large. The FBI returned
returned to the neighborhood, asking residents about former neighbors who moved out before the disappearance, and querying names of contractors at a nearby property under renovation. That is targeted elimination of a narrowed field. That is not an investigation running out of steam. That is an investigation that has moved past the initial canvas into something more specific. Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Chione's blue Honda CR-V, the last vehicle Nancy was in before she disappeared, remained in FBI custody as of mid-March, reportedly dismantled and forensically examined under law enforcement supervision. And Sheriff Nanos himself is fighting a recall effort, a no-confidence vote from his own union, and a board of supervisors invoking territorial-era law to require sworn reports. The FBI's operational primacy in this investigation is not incidental. It is the structural response to the institutional instability around the man nominally leading it locally. What the federal investigation is building, methodically, out of public view, is a case designed not to satisfy a news cycle, but to survive a federal trial.
She went back because she
The
decided
difference
that
in those
absence
two
was not a
standards
posture
is
she was
enormous.
willing to hold
Press
indefinitely for
conferences
either of
require
them.
enough
The
to make a
investigation
statement.
has not resolved, and the
Indictments
record shows
require
that
enough
the
to hold
second
up
them
through
is still
pre-trial
out there,
motions,
still
through
unindicted,
discovery,
still
through
waiting to find out how much
cross-examination,
the federal
through
evidence
jury
has built
deliberation.
against whatever they
The
thought they had
FBI
gotten
is
away
not
with.
building
And
for
the
the
first
former.
them,
It is
the
building for the
institutional
latter.
one, has now had to
Every
resume
video on
sharing
this
a desk with
channel
the
is
person
built
some
around
of them
one
reportedly
discipline,
hoped would not
not
return.
reporting
Both
what has already
stories
been
are still
reported,
live.
but
Both
applying
sentences
analytical
still
attention
mean
to
something,
what the
and this
record
case is
actually
not over.
contains,
Every
and being
video in this
honest about the
series has been
difference
built
between
around
what is
one discipline,
confirmed and
not
what is
reporting what is
constructed from
already
it.
reported,
Here
but
is what the
applying
record
analytical
actually
attention to what the
contains in
record
this case.
actually contains,
A confirmed
and being
federal
honest about the difference
investigation.
between what is
Confirmed
confirmed
ransom
and what
notes
is
containing
constructed from
details
it.
about the
This
victim's
case has a
home and
confirmed
clothing
federal
that were not
investigation,
publicly
confirmed
available.
ransom notes
Confirmed
containing
masked
non-public
individual
details about the
on
victim's home and
confirmed
clothing,
surveillance footage.
a confirmed masked
Confirmed
individual
community
on
appeal
confirmed surveillance
flagging
footage,
January
a
11th,
confirmed community
3 weeks
appeal
before the
flagging
crime,
January
as
11th,
analytically
3 weeks before the
significant.
crime,
A
as
confirmed
analytically
statement from the
significant,
lead
a
sheriff
confirmed
that
statement from the lead
investigators
sheriff that
believe they
investigators
know
believe
why
they
this
know
home was
why the
targeted.
home was targeted.
A confirmed report that many inside
many
the
at the Today Show hoped the anchor would not return. A confirmed formal accountability process against the man nominally leading the local investigation.
Nominally
None
leading
of
the
those
local
things
investigation.
taken alone
None of
resolves the
those things
case.
taken
All of
alone
them
resolves
taken
the
together
case.
build a
All
picture
of them
that is
taken
more
together
specific, more
build a
disturbing,
picture that is
and more
more specific,
analytically
more
grounded than
disturbing,
the standard
and more
coverage
analytically
has
grounded
produced.
than the
The picture
standard
is not
coverage has
complete,
produced.
but it is significantly
The picture
more
is not
developed than the
complete,
surface
but it
version
is
suggests.
significantly
And
more
it is the
developed
picture
than the
this
surface
series has
version
been
suggests.
documenting since
The
this case
sentence
began.
many of them
The answers
hope
are
she'd never
still
come
coming.
back
The
does not
investigation is
resolve
58
neatly.
days
It
active
was never
and building
supposed to.
toward a
It holds
conclusion that
two
has not yet
truths
arrived publicly,
simultaneously.
but that the
One
available
about
evidence
institutional
suggests is
ambition
further
in
along
morning television,
internally than
and
the
one
public
about
record
the
reflects.
criminal exposure
When this
that
reaches
comes
the
with
courtroom,
leaving a
when
witness
the indictment
alive.
lands or the
Both
arrest
of those
is made or
truths
the
are
discovery
still
changes
live.
every other
Both of
variable,
those sentences
this channel
still
will be
mean
here
something,
because
and
this
this
channel
case
doesn't
is not
fill time.
over.
It builds the record,
second
and the
them
record
is
in this
still out
case is
there,
not finished.
still
If you have
unindicted,
been watching this
still
series
waiting to
and you are
find out
not
how much the
subscribed,
federal
you are
evidence
one
has
algorithm
built
decision
against whatever
away
they
from
thought
missing
they
the
had
moment
gotten
when this
away
case
with.
breaks.
And the
Every
first
new
them
episode on this
has
channel
now
goes
had
to
to resume
subscribers
sharing
first.
a desk
The next
with
video
the
in this
person
series
some of
is
them
all
reportedly hoped would not
Subscribe, like, comment, please. We will keep watching, we will keep reporting, and Nancy Guthrie is not forgotten.